After exhausting traditional, medical, and spiritual options, they decide to explore surrogacy, a path that clashes with cherished cultural norms. Lear and Bola had been married for nearly a decade without a child. Despite visits to fertility specialists, prayer houses, and traditional healers, each attempt ended in disappointment. The couple quietly carried their sorrow, clinging to the hope of welcoming a child someday. At gatherings, well-meaning relatives offered unsolicited advice, yet nothing changed their reality. Sometimes, Bola would break down in tears, lamenting her perceived inadequacy. One afternoon, they stumbled upon an article about surrogacy in a local health magazine. Though new to them, the idea sparked a glimmer of hope. They prayed about it, seeking guidance on this unfamiliar path. In their hearts, they believed that surrogacy might be the answer to their many years of pain. Little did they know this decision would set them on a journey that tested their faith, relationships, and cultural beliefs. Miriam was their next-door neighbor, a warm and friendly woman who always wore a bright smile despite life's challenges. She and her husband struggled to make ends meet. With 3 growing children at home, every extra naira mattered. When she overheard whispers about Lear and Bola's interest in surrogacy, she felt an odd stirring in her heart. One evening, Miriam gathered the courage to share her thoughts with her husband Idris. Could she offer her womb to help the neighbors who had shown her kindness over the years? Idris hesitated initially, fearing gossip and accusations of greed. But the potential income could transform their family's fortunes. Miriam approached Lear and Bola with her offer, setting in motion a life-changing arrangement. At first, Lear and Bola were overwhelmed by Miriam's generous proposal. They wanted to ensure she fully understood the emotional and physical demands of surrogacy. Patiently, they explained the medical process, the legal details, and the financial arrangement. Miriam listened intently, her resolve unfaltering. They all agreed to meet a lawyer who specialized in family matters. Over tea in a modest law office, they discussed necessary documents, parental rights, and compensation. The meeting ended with a handshake, a simple gesture that felt monumental. Miriam's commitment and compassion gave Lear and Bola the confidence to believe that, at last, they were on the brink of parenthood. News of the surrogacy spread quickly among their neighbors. Some found it admirable and praised Miriam's courage. Others whispered behind closed doors, calling it unnatural and inappropriate. Each time Bola visited the market, she caught glimpses of curious stares and heard hushed conversations. Miriam, on her end, received cautionary words from a few relatives who felt she was dishonoring her body. Her mother, still rooted in traditional beliefs, urged her to reconsider. Yet, the possibility of securing a better future for her children spurred Miriam on. She resolved to stand firm, no matter the gossip swirling around their modest compound. Lear, Bola, and Miriam traveled to a well-reputed fertility clinic in Ibadan. The doctor explained the screening process, initial hormone treatments, and the timeline they should anticipate. Miriam would need to adhere to a strict medication schedule, while Bola's eggs and Lear's sperm would be carefully gathered and fertilized in a lab. In the waiting area, the 3 of them held hands, a unified circle of hope. This wasn't just a medical procedure for them. It was the culmination of prayers and dreams. Although anxiety lingered in the air, a sense of courage bound them together. Their trust in one another was their greatest shield. Weeks of injections and clinic visits passed. Finally, the day arrived for the embryo transfer. Miriam reclined on the exam table, heart thumping as she prayed the procedure would succeed. Bola stayed by her side, offering silent prayers of her own, while Lear paced outside, too nervous to sit. 2 weeks later, they received the long-awaited news. Miriam was pregnant. Tears filled Bola's eyes, and Lear erupted into joyous laughter. Miriam felt a mix of relief and awe at the life forming within her. It was a moment of profound gratitude and the start of a new chapter in their intertwined journey. The early weeks of pregnancy were filled with excitement. As tradition demanded, the couple kept the news within close circles until the pregnancy was confirmed to be stable. Miriam avoided strenuous chores, and her children tiptoed around her like little guardians. When she reached the second trimester, they decided it was time for a modest celebration. Family and friends gathered, sharing hearty meals of jollof rice, pounded yam, and egusi soup. Drums and songs resonated, turning the evening into a subtle but heartfelt festivity. For once, the whispered judgments were drowned out by the sound of genuine happiness. Beneath the surface of their celebration, tension simmered. Bola's conservative aunt openly criticized the surrogacy, calling it an abomination against tradition. Elders in Idris's family worried that Miriam's involvement might create spiritual complications for future generations. Each household tried to remain respectful, but private arguments flared. Sometimes, Miriam's mother visited, voicing concerns about how the child might belong to two mothers. Meanwhile, Lear's brother worried about the legal and cultural implications. Though they sought to focus on the miracle unfolding, the three adults felt the weight of familial disapproval growing heavier each day. Miriam's stomach began to show, a sweet reminder of life taking shape. Bola accompanied her to prenatal checkups, observing each ultrasound with reverence. Lear carried groceries to Miriam's home, insisting she rest whenever possible. A closeness blossomed between them, rooted in mutual care and shared dreams. This kinship extended beyond the pregnancy. They began sharing evening meals, discussing baby names, and praying together. Even Idris, once hesitant, found himself laughing more often in the company of his neighbors. In these quiet, supportive moments, the new family felt shielded from the outside world's relentless scrutiny. However, gossip refused to die down. At church gatherings, Bola overheard half-truths and twisted assumptions. Some claimed she and Miriam were experimenting with modern, foreign ideas that insulted Yoruba customs. Others insinuated Miriam was being exploited, or that the arrangement was immoral. One Sunday, Bola summoned her courage and addressed the whisperers. She explained surrogacy as an act of compassion and love. The response was divided. Some listened with empathy, while others shook their heads. Lear, too, found himself defending their decision at social events. Despite the judgment, they refused to let words overshadow the wonder of bringing new life into the world. As Miriam's belly swelled, Idris started having second thoughts. The frequent clinic trips, the hormonal mood swings, everything reminded him how different their lives had become. He worried the arrangement might strain his marriage or confuse his children. Miriam noticed his subdued demeanor and pressed him to talk. Idris confessed his fears, questioning the long-term implications. Though she tried to reassure him, doubt lingered in his eyes. Still, Idris recognized how the financial support had lifted them. Their rent was settled, and they could afford better meals. Torn between gratitude and uncertainty, he remained caught in an internal struggle. Word spread to distant relatives who held more rigid views of Yoruba tradition. They argued surrogacy was an affront to the natural order of childbearing. Some cited ancestral customs, contending that no outsider's womb should carry the lineage of another family. In heated discussions, they labeled it Oyinbo nonsense. The three adults leaned on the empathy of medical professionals who educated their extended families about the safety and legitimacy of surrogacy. Bola's cousin, a nurse, tried bridging the cultural gap by explaining modern fertility treatments. Though minds were slow to change, the trio stayed resolute. The child's well-being guided their every choice. Balancing tradition and innovation weighed heavily on Miriam. At night, she prayed for guidance, asking Olodumare for wisdom. Sometimes, she woke in tears, recalling her mother's stern warnings that her body was sacred. She wondered if she was treading too far from ancestral teachings. Bola and Lear did their best to uplift her spirits, reminding her of the bond they shared and the hope this child represented. They even arranged a small prayer session with a trusted pastor who blessed Miriam's journey. Though uncertainty lingered, her resolve stayed firm. This was no mere transaction, it was an act of love. Around the 6th month, Miriam developed gestational hypertension. Concerned, her doctor placed her on partial bed rest, emphasizing the need for careful monitoring. Bola spent most days by Miriam's side, preparing meals low in salt and ensuring she took her medication on time. Lear, though deeply worried, balanced his job and daily clinic visits. Finances were strained as they paid for additional tests and medication. Still, they remained thankful for each new day. The baby grew stronger. This health scare reminded them all that childbirth, whether through surrogacy or not, came with its own set of challenges and miracles. Family members took Miriam's medical scare as a sign of disapproval from the ancestors. Some even urged her to abandon the pregnancy. Despite these unsettling remarks, Miriam stayed grounded. She saw the doctor's efforts and believed modern science was a blessing, not a curse. By now, Lear and Bola had grown used to navigating condemnation. Instead of lashing out, they gently countered critics with explanations about how surrogacy saved many childless couples from despair. Their calm responses gradually softened a few hearts. Though acceptance was slow, their unwavering determination became a powerful statement against prejudice. As Miriam entered her 3rd trimester, excitement bloomed again. Bola started buying baby essentials, tiny socks, blankets, and bottles. Lear took on minor repairs in Miriam's house, ensuring everything was safe. The children giggled as they watched the grown-ups fuss over every detail. Meanwhile, Miriam's health stabilized, allowing her a bit more freedom. She took gentle walks with Bola, pointing out baby clothes in shop windows. Sometimes, they daydreamed about the child's future, discussing hopes for education and the importance of cultural heritage. In those moments, the outside world faded, leaving only the radiant anticipation of new life. Living side by side had turned neighbors into family. Bola and Miriam would sometimes share stories from their childhood, rituals like naming ceremonies and folktales told under the moonlight. Lear contributed tales of his father's proverbs, linking each wisdom to their current journey. This shared history deepened their appreciation for Yoruba tradition. Despite criticism, they realized that the true essence of culture lay in community support and compassion. Strengthening this bond gave them renewed energy. Each day, they reminded one another that the love they shared was stronger than any doubt society could cast. Strangers continued to gossip, especially when Miriam's belly was visibly prominent. Some assumed she was carrying her own child. Others questioned if Bola would claim a baby that wasn't hers biologically. Rumors twisted the truth, painting the arrangement as either scandalous or fraudulent. Still, the trio found solace within their homes. Extended family members who once stood in opposition began to visit, eager for updates. Some even offered modest gifts, realizing that their earlier resistance might have been harsh. Slowly, pockets of acceptance emerged, though the road to wider understanding remained steep. Bola, deeply grateful for Miriam's sacrifice, organized a small baby shower. Close friends and a few family members gathered in the courtyard, adorned with balloons and vibrant decorations. Women sang celebratory songs in Yoruba, while men discussed the significance of parenthood. Miriam felt an unexpected wave of emotion. She realized this was her last trimester with the child she carried. Yet the baby belonged to Lear and Bola in every meaningful sense. Despite the complexity, the shower was a joyful event. Gifts ranged from diapers to handcrafted baby carriers, each reflecting the community's cautious but growing support. That evening, tensions flared at Miriam's house. Her mother arrived unannounced, still uneasy about the entire surrogacy. She claimed it went against the will of their ancestors and demanded Miriam stop entertaining outsiders in the family home. Idris defended his wife, reminding his mother-in-law that this was their life and their decision. Miriam tried to remain respectful, but stated firmly that her role in the surrogacy brought both spiritual and financial blessings. Though her mother left in a huff, Miriam stood resolute. She knew her path was chosen with sincerity and love. Late one night, Miriam felt the first contractions. She alerted Bola, who woke Lear in a panic. They rushed Miriam to the nearest hospital, hearts pounding with equal parts excitement and fear. Medical staff checked her vitals, confirming that labor had indeed begun. As the pain intensified, Bola held Miriam's hand, tears reflecting gratitude for the sacrifice her friend was enduring. Lear hovered nearby, anxious yet determined to support in any way possible. Idris arrived soon after, uniting them all in the waiting room. The reality that they would soon meet the baby filled each heart with awe. After hours of labor, Miriam delivered a baby girl. The sound of her tiny cry echoed through the hospital corridor, bringing tears to everyone's eyes. Bola cradled the baby, overwhelmed by a love she had never known before. Lear stood transfixed, tears streaming down his cheeks. Miriam, exhausted, closed her eyes with relief. In the corner of the room, Idris offered a prayer of thanksgiving. This was the moment they had all been working toward, the birth of a child formed through hope, faith, and unwavering commitment. Despite the challenges they had faced, the universe blessed them with this precious gift. Back home, preparations began for the naming ceremony, an integral part of Yoruba culture. Elders arrived with drums and calabashes, ready to bestow blessings and names upon the newborn. True to tradition, the baby was given multiple names, each carrying a unique prayer for her future. Bola and Lear announced the chosen names: Adebola, meaning crown meets wealth, and Ifeoluwa, translating to God's love. Miriam watched from her seat of honor, touched by the ritual's richness. As Yoruba prayers mingled with Christian hymns, the baby was welcomed into the world with full spiritual weight. The ceremony shone as a beacon of cultural unity and love. In the days that followed, Bola and Lear took their daughter home. Their living room now resembled a mini nursery, filled with feeding bottles, rattles, and stuffed animals. Bola was every inch the new mother, waking at odd hours to soothe the baby's cries, reveling in her daughter's quiet coos. Miriam stayed next door, healing from childbirth. Emotions coursed through her: relief, happiness, and an odd sense of loss. Though she remained close to the baby, she reminded herself that her role was complete. With every heartfelt thank you from Lear and Bola, she felt reassured that the sacrifice had been worth it. Not everyone celebrated the miracle child. Some neighbors still whispered that the arrangement was unholy. Even at the naming ceremony, certain elders left early, refusing to partake in what they labeled an affront to tradition. Others questioned Miriam's emotional state, assuming she would regret giving up the baby. Despite these attitudes, the immediate family stood as a shield of acceptance. Miriam's children embraced the new normal, proudly telling classmates that their mother helped bring a special baby into the world. Bola and Lear responded to critics with grace, focusing on caring for their newborn. In the midst of judgment, unity prevailed. Miriam faced a wave of postpartum hormones. Nights brought tears, longing for the kicks she once felt. Yet every time she saw Bola's blissful expression, she remembered why she had chosen this path. Idris comforted her, reminding her of the financial security that allowed them to pay off debts and care for their own children better. Meanwhile, Lear and Bola often checked in on Miriam, ensuring she was not neglected. They scheduled a simple postpartum checkup, paying attention to her emotional well-being as well. Though her body still healed, Miriam felt immense relief knowing she wasn't alone. This shared compassion united them in unprecedented ways. With Adebola now at home, life slowly settled. Bola carefully introduced her parents to their grandchild. Although once skeptical, they were immediately enchanted by the baby's bright eyes. Lear's side of the family also began to soften, noticing how the child bore the family resemblance. For Mariam and Idris, the surrogacy fees helped open a small shop selling provisions. They dreamed of expanding it, offering a better life for their children. The baby's arrival, once fraught with controversy, brought blessings to both households. It became a living testament that love, when genuine, could transform even the harshest judgments. Over time, gossip died down, replaced by curiosity. A few people started asking questions about surrogacy, its process, benefits, and risks. Lear and Bola, once shy about the topic, took every opportunity to educate others. Mariam, too, shared her experience, emphasizing that she did it for love, not just money. As the families joined forces to host a small gathering, many guests realized the true spirit behind their journey: compassion, determination, and unity. The once suspicious neighbors saw how both families continued to thrive. In the face of skepticism, they stood stronger together, forging a path that blended tradition with modern solutions. The surrogacy arrangement had confronted deep-seated cultural beliefs. Yet it also opened dialogue about what truly defines family and motherhood. Elders who once resisted began to see that compassion could coexist with tradition. Prayers at family events now included words of gratitude for the child brought into being through unexpected means. When Mariam's mother visited again, she was humbled by the joy emanating from both households. Holding a Debola, she prayed aloud for the child's prosperous future. At last, she acknowledged that her daughter's choice was guided by a higher purpose. Slowly but surely, the community learned that love was the greatest tradition of all. As months turned into a year, Debola thrived, a bright-eyed toddler who brought laughter wherever she went. Bola and Lear nurtured her with unwavering devotion, forever grateful to Mariam for her sacrifice. In turn, Mariam found renewed purpose as her own family flourished. Though lingering whispers occasionally surfaced, they no longer stung. The strength of their bond insulated them from judgment. Each holiday, the families gathered under one roof, feasting and reminiscing about the remarkable journey that led them here. They had proven that surrogacy, far from diluting tradition, could uplift an entire community when grounded in love, faith, and unity. The moral of the story teaches that true family goes beyond bloodlines and cultural barriers. When compassion guides our actions, we can break old traditions, overcome judgments, and build bridges where others see walls. This story reminds us that real love, rooted in empathy and selflessness, can transform not just individual lives, but entire communities. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. See you on the next one.